That night, I had the key in my hand. It wasn't to go to work. It wasn't to get medicine. It was to leave because I didn't know how to cope anymore. My name is Raphael. I'm 37 years old. I'm a single father to Miguel, 8 years old, who is autistic, and I was exhausted in a way that no one could see. Single fathers learn one thing quickly. You can't break down. There's no rotation. There's no, you take over today. There's no one to comfort you. If you collapse, the house collapses with you. And I was one step away from that. Nothing extraordinary happened that day, and maybe that's exactly the problem. It was just another day. Miguel woke up at 2:30 a.m. He walked down the hallway. He ran his hand along the wall 3 times. He lined up his toy cars on the living room floor. I woke up too. I always do. By 6 a.m. He was already sensitive. His t-shirt had to be blue. The bread couldn't have a thick crust. The juice couldn't touch the wrong glass. Small details that sustain his stability. Small details that drain mine. At school, the coordinator called me over. Rafael Miguel doesn't seem to notice when his classmates talk to him. He doesn't notice. I held back the urge to respond. My son notices when I change my tone of voice. He notices when I hide my tiredness. He notices when I lie and say everything is fine. But I just shook my head, because single fathers learn to swallow their indignation. On the way home, he started repeating, "Captain Blue will save the day. Captain Blue will save the day. Captain Blue will save the day." Repetition is regulation. I know that. But that day, each word seemed like a cruel reminder that I wasn't saving anything. I had lost 2 clients that week. The rent was overdue. The therapy bill was piling up. And I exploded. "Miguel, stop for a moment. Daddy can't take it anymore." Silence. Not that usual silence. A heavy silence. He froze. His whole body rigid. His eyes fixed on the window. His hands stopped moving. I felt the mistake the very second, but pride prevented me from apologizing. And that haunts me to this day. After the shower, after the silent dinner, after putting him to bed, I was alone in the living room. The house was dark. My mind was noisy. I thought something I never had the courage to admit. Maybe he'd be better off without me. It wasn't that I wanted to abandon my son. I just wanted to stop failing. And when you're too tired, your mind starts negotiating dangerous things. I grabbed the key to the door, thinking about going out for air. Thinking about walking aimlessly. Thinking about disappearing for a few hours. Or more. And it was at that moment that I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Careful. Miguel rarely leaves his room at night. But he did. He stopped in the doorway. He started at me directly. Without looking away, without repeating phrases. Without swaying his body, just looking. And in that look, there was something that pierced me. He knew. He knew I was breaking down. The kitchen light outlined half of his face. He wasn't swaying. He wasn't repeating phrases. He was present, whole. I was still holding the key in my hand, and for the first time in a long time I felt ashamed to be seen by my own son. "Go back to your room, son," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't go back. He took 2 slow steps toward me. I noticed he was breathing differently, deeper, like he does when he's concentrating intensely. Then he stopped right in front of me. He looked at the key, then at me, and he did something he'd never done before. He took my hand. It wasn't a clumsy touch. It wasn't an impulse. It was intentional. He held my fingers and closed my hand, closed it over the key, as if saying, "No." Miguel has difficulty forming complete sentences. But that night, he forced it. I saw the effort in his jaw, in his breathing, in his furrowed brow. And then he said, slowly, "Daddy, stay." That's all. 2 words, but it wasn't what he said that broke me. It was the tone. It wasn't repeating a drawing. It wasn't a memorized phrase. It was fear. He was afraid I would leave. And in that second, I understood something devastating. He had realized I was thinking of running away. All the times I sighed, heavily thinking he didn't notice. All the times I said Daddy's okay while holding back tears. All the nights I sat on his bed longer than necessary, just to regain strength. He saw. He heard. He processed. He just didn't respond the way I expected, because Miguel may not look you in the eye for very long. But he hears patterns. He notices he feels minimal variations in the environment, and I was his environment. Well, I thought I was protecting my son from my exhaustion. He was trying to adjust so as not to weigh me down more. I knelt in front of him. The key fell to the floor. I couldn't hold back the tears. And this time I didn't hide him. Miguel. Then he raised his hand and placed it on my face. He doesn't like touch, but he touched me. He wiped away a tear with his thumb and said, "Daddy's sad." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. He knew. He always knew. For years I thought I was the one supporting him. But that night, the one who supported me was an 80-year-old boy whom the world thinks doesn't perceive his surroundings. He stopped me from leaving, reminding me that I was needed. I hugged my son, and for the first time, I didn't hug him out of fear of the future. I hugged him consciously. My son doesn't live in his own world. He lives in the same world as me. He just feels differently. More deeply. More silently. More attentively. After Miguel said, "Daddy's sad," something changed inside me. It wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't magical. But it broke a lie I'd carried for years. The lie that he didn't understand. That night, I sat on the living room floor with him. I said, "Daddy's staying." Okay. He didn't answer with words, but he rested his head on my chest. And estale. The next morning, I woke up different. Not stronger, more aware. Miguel observes everything. At breakfast, when I spilled some coffee in the sink inside, he stopped. I looked at me. "Come closer." He touched my arm. It was the same gesture as the night before. My son, who the school said didn't perceive his surroundings, adjusted his behavior according to my mood. That week, I stopped pretending. One night, sitting on his bed, I said, "Son, sometimes Daddy gets tired, but it's not because of you." He rocked slightly. But he was listening. When Daddy takes a deep breath, it's not because he wants to leave. It's just because he needs a minute. I needed to remove the invisible weight he might be carrying, because maybe he was trying to be less so as not to overwhelm me. Less repetitive, less noisy, less intense, and no child should feel they need to diminish themselves to be loved. A few days later, something confirmed everything. I was dealing with a debt on the phone. The conversation was tense. My voice rose slightly. When I hung up, I was silent. Miguel was on the rug, organizing toy cars. Without looking at me, he said, "Daddy's not going anywhere." I froze. I had never said that phrase out loud. Never. He was responding to a fear I hadn't verbalized. He kept it inside, processed it, and released it when he felt I needed to hear it. Miguel doesn't ignore emotions. He absorbs them. He lives in a more intensely sensory universe, where every sigh weighs heavily. Every change echoes. Every silence communicates. I still get tired. The bills still arrive. The school still calls. The crises still happen. I still make mistakes, but now, when Miguel starts repeating Captain Blue will save the day, I don't hear noise. I hear regulation. When he gets too quiet, I don't assume absence. I ask. And when I feel at my limit, I remember his small hand closing mine on that key. He didn't save me from a dramatic decision. He saved me from believing I was alone. Today I know my son always understood. It took me a while to understand him. And if there's one thing I want other parents to know, it's this. Sometimes the silence of an autistic child isn't distance. It's depth. And sometimes the person we think needs protection has been protecting us for a long time. Silently. In their own way. with their small hand closed over ours.